Hello everyone, thanks for dropping by. In case you didn't already know, that's the Buick flagship. And that's the kind of American car I'd have if I ever moved to Maine, as Buick is the quintessential American car and it's older than Ford. Anyway, enough of that. The wedding industry and the engagement industry and the wedding dress industry, as you know, are all in terminal decline, followed by the US birth rate going down. They're all being affected by the MGTOW effect. Now, one area that I've not seen any MGTOW commentators cover is the US tax revenue being affected by the MGTOW effect. So looking around, I found this. As you can see, US State Census Bureau, and this was done on September 17, 2023, and Unmarried and Single Americans Week. I think I've covered this page before. So if you drop down, you come to this. The third wave feminism kicked off in 1990. As you know, the MGTOW philosophy started more or less around the year 2000, and it gained traction around about 2008, 2010. So if you go up, you'll see the MGTOW effect start to have effect, and then it rises exponentially, and the same with married guys. The number of married guys were dropping. So if you drop down for the women, you see the same effect. Third wave feminism, MGTOW philosophy kicked in, number of women never getting married, number of women being married are dropping. Now, the US government tax revenue is $4 trillion. As you can see, this is Reuters. This was done on September 28th, 2020, updated 3 years ago. The US government, over $4 trillion annual budget, the world's largest, relies heavily on individual wage earners whose taxes and retirement benefits are deducted from every paycheck, leaning particularly on the top 20% income earners. In other words, the guys that all the women want to go after, the 80-20 rule and the 90-10 rule. So if you drop down, this bit is the most interesting thing. Of the $3.46 trillion in receipts taken by the US Treasury during 2019, nearly half came from $1.72 trillion in individual income taxes collected. In addition, $1.24 in Social Security and Medicare taxes were paid by individuals, bringing their share to 85%. So if you add that to that, you get $2.96 trillion. Now, the Social Security, some of that Social Security will be Chad and Tyrone's offspring with single mothers. And then it just goes down who pays the most. So if you're a W-2 wage earner in America, I don't know what that is, and you got a regular paycheck from a business, government entity or non-profit, you pay the largest share of the US government tax revenue. And then it goes, despite high unemployment because of coronavirus pandemic, withheld income tax in 2020 has fallen less than 1% at the 29 level. And then it's more yada yada about the US tax break. I also found this to support that. This is the Tax Policy Center, Urban Institute and Brookings Institution. So if you drop down, you get what it says on the previous one in a graph form. There's individual tax, there's a corporation tax, social insurance, payroll tax, excise tax, and other. Now, this is the interesting bit. As you know, third wave feminism kicked off 1990-1992. MGTOW kicked off, the MGTOW philosophy, the year 2000-2001, as you can see. And then MGTOW kicked in, and then the tax revenue dropped. Third wave feminism kicked off about here. There was a bit of a surge, and then MGTOW really started going, and then it dropped. You could say that this is the MGTOW effect on US government tax revenues. If you drop down again, there's 2001, where MGTOW kicked in, and a precipitous drop, bit of a surge, and then it dropped again in 2010 when MGTOW really got going. And this is a rise that could be all these strong independent women paying in the workforce, paying tax, but then it started to drop again in 2019. And then it's just got more yada yada and different graphs showing you the various taxes. I found this one, US facts. How much money does the government collect per person? The US government collects $5.03 trillion in federal revenues in 2022, up to $630 billion from the previous year. Now, if you drop on the graph, there's MGTOW starting to kick in, drop in. There's the MGTOW effect really kicking in, but the revenue goes up. That means all the single women who are not getting married, they got to start coughing up and paying into the government tax funds. That's why it's raised. But you notice this last government's surplus, MGTOW. They had a peak of the government surplus. MGTOW kicked in, and then the government surplus started dropping. MGTOW really started kicking in. Women started entering the workforce, but then guys started cutting back on the spending, and then the revenue plummeted, and now it's going up a bit. Does this have anything to do with the MGTOW philosophy? I don't know, but it has a certain degree of, what would you say, comparison. There again, federal reserves and payroll income taxes grew over the 2 years any time since 1980. MGTOW. And then it really started kicking in. Women entering the workforce, having to pay their way, and its tax rate's going up a bit. But dropping back to this, is this affecting this? Is there a comparison? Nobody's ever covered this before, and I've only just started doing it myself, so this bit is what makes up the bulk of the revenue. But the more men that don't get married, the more they don't spend on houses, fridges, cars, etc. Guys do without. This is going to affect this. And this is a direct result of this. And this is also in relation to this and this. The MGTOW effect, in other words, seems to be affecting the US government tax revenue take. And the US government can't do anything about it because the US government is solely dependent on individual wage earners whose taxes and retirement benefits are deducted from every paycheck, leaning particularly on the top 20% income earners. Well, they can afford to hire accountants to do all sorts of tax fiddles, but the average run-of-the-mill rank-and-file Americans are not bothering to get married. They're going the wages for spending on women, so they're just keeping the money to themselves as they don't need much. And the government, US government, in the next few years is going to have dramatic effect on this and this, because the US government needs individual American men to pay their wages via the tax revenue. And with 20 to 30 US women, by 2030, 45% of US women not going to be single and childless. That's going to have a dramatic effect on the American government finances. I think I'm on the 10-minute mark now. Sorry it's a bit iffy this week, but I've only just sorry to have a look at this thing, so you'll have to forgive me for some of this brief and slapdash, but you know the routine. Like, dislike, comment, subscribe. I'll try and get some more for this next week, but don't really count on it. So that's it for this one. Bye bye.